My name is Kurt Sarac, and this is my story. So I was born in Buffalo, New York in not important what my age is, but I actually was very fortunate to have a very blessed family. My dad was a world-renowned surgeon, and my mom was his scrub nurse, and grew up in a very, very loving house with great experiences. I'm sort of the black sheep in the family because everybody's in medicine except for myself. My dad, when I was in college, I started off as a pre-med major, set me down and said, hey, listen, you don't have to become a doctor. It's not important that you become a doctor. It's important that you love what you do. And that was very instrumental to me in allowing me to understand the importance of what you do and making a difference. I actually, when I was 7 years old, was diagnosed with dyslexia as a child. And in that, through some real struggles my way, my parents worked very hard to actually get me the best care to be able to understand it. But at that time, folks did not understand what dyslexia was about. So at 7 years old, I pulled out my wonderful little Bible, and I wrote, Jesus, I can't do this alone. I need to have you. And from that started an experience of X number of years to right now, where God has revealed His grace, His wonderful sense of humor in some cases, but most importantly, His love for me and all the people around me. I went to a school called Canisius College in Buffalo, New York. I've got 4 brothers and sisters, and some other ones that kind of just showed up at our house that my parents helped out over the time. And that experience of having that large family also helped develop the importance to me to be able to work with folks and be able to work things out with folks, argue with folks and not argue with folks, but to also have that Christ-centered values in what we're doing. Coming to Red Line was a unique experience. My daughter was talking to somebody and said, hey, they had a teacher that actually was leaving and they needed somebody to fill in. So I got a wonderful call on a Sunday watching my Buffalo Bills lose again. And Mr. Osborne called me. I actually thought it was a joke because my daughter did not have the opportunity to talk to me about it. So I thought it was somebody from the Coast Guard kind of messing around with me a little bit. Thought it was only going to be a couple weeks, frankly, to come here and kind of to work with folks and see how things were going with the kids. And then I would leave and go off to my business. And thought was that I would just actually come, dip in and dip back out real quick. But the kids really touched me. And then 2 weeks grew into 2 months, which grew into today, and really allowed my wife and I to decide what we want to do. And long term, that's my goal, is to be able to teach full time and help the kids out, learn about experiences of life in business, but most of all in the world. As everybody knows, I'm in the Coast Guard, auxiliary, and that has just been a great experience for my family. To be able to see and work with different things, to be able to go to different events, and most of all, to teach me the wonderful word called followership. To be a good leader, you have to be able to follow people. Real important to me to be able to have folks that not only will listen to what I say, but also trust what I'm saying. I get a chance to work with a lot of different folks in the military. NCIS folks from the Navy, Secret Service, the F-16 Blue Angels are a big group that we work with and spend a lot of time with. And the one thing that they always talk about, each one of the groups, is striving to be the best at your craft. And that starts at a young age. And it starts with frankly, at high school. If you can actually take your craft and you can hone it in. There's many kids that I get a chance to work with. These young men and women, they're given guns, they're given weapons, and they have to hone their craft. They don't have the opportunity of making mistakes. They have only a few minutes, a few seconds in many cases, to be able to make certain decisions. And again, these are kids that are 18, 24, maybe 30 years old, that are all out there giving to this country every single day, and they don't ask for much in return. They certainly don't get paid a lot of money. There in many cases are away from their families for very long periods of time. And those guys are the true heroes inside the United States. And we should all be thankful and pray for them every single day. Everybody talks about Coast Guard experiences in different venues. There's a lot of them that I could bring up and talk about, but there's some specific stories that are incredibly unique. One of them is actually one of my bosses, Admiral Dean Lee. Admiral Dean Lee had the opportunity to go speak at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington. And he talked about how faith is so important in everything we do. And he wasn't afraid of what that might mean to his career. At that time he had 2 stars and he was going to a 3rd star. And to speak about Christianity the way that he did really touched so many people, but also was incredibly risky for him. But that's the way that he taught us all. That's the way that he actually led us all, was you actually do what's right. Don't worry about what the consequences are. I've got a chance to see some really fun things and some really tough things. Folks will ask, well, how many people have you helped out on the water? How many folks have you got to pull out? And frankly, I don't know how many, and I don't know all the different ones. But I can tell you the ones that I was involved with that weren't successful. There's one case specifically when I was helping with the canal days in Chesapeake City, Maryland. There was a young guy that was drinking with his uncle off the back of a boat. And they probably drank a case of beer between the two of them. And this young kid we watched as he actually rolled off the back of a boat. And when we got to him, he was under and we couldn't find him. We were searching for him, we were trying to get him, and we felt that we had him, myself and as well as another auxiliarist. In the meantime, there was a whole bunch of other people that probably had too much to drink, and they all jumped in the water. And when they did, we lost that guy. We could not hang on, and he ended up perishing. And I remember going through just so many different emotions. The toughest thing was the Coast Guard ended up giving me an award for it, saying that we actually saved a lot of other folks from drowning. But I just remember seeing that kid's face to this day. And it just reminded me how important the decisions that we make are going to affect us. How many other people were affected, my teammates, my shipmates, the people that were at the restaurant, the people that were on the water, all saw the same thing happen. And we were affected so long and so deeply by this that I actually thought about quitting. The funny thing is how Christ comes in through things. I got a chance to meet this guy's parents and share my testimony a little bit with them. And that meant so much to them, as well as that there are people out there that are willing to actually help out, as they said. There was one case where actually a young girl actually fell off the front of her father's boat and died. And I remember just struggling with that so greatly, on how God could take this young little girl and let her die. It took us about 2 days to find her, and I remember seeing the anguish on the parents' face as they waited there to find out what the disposition of their daughter was, knowing very well that this daughter was not coming back. That was tough. I remember going home and climbing in bed with my boys. My boys were happening to be sleeping together that night. They were going to sleep over in the basement. I just climbed in bed and I hugged all of them. And I remember just sitting there and frankly not understanding why stuff like that happens. I actually had to go see somebody inside one of the pastoral folks inside the Coast Guard, just asking for some help, saying, "This is just hard. How do you justify God taking a baby like that?" And his response was simple to me: there is no justification that we can come up with on earth. When we're in heaven, all the answers will come forth. And to be able to see things like that happen are very hard. You have to come with a callus on you almost to be able to actually get through things. If you don't have that callus, the only other thing that you can provide is that faith in Christ. I think the interesting is we all have ability to be able to touch folks and to be able to actually go out there and reach out and help if we just open our eyes to the experiences that God gives us that allows us to be able to touch people and to be able to help them in their need. I'm Kurt Sarac, and that is my story.